the way that you look for work, the type of work that you can go get and go do is the options that you have are endless. And I think most of you are probably thinking, oh man, there's no jobs. Oh man, I'm not qualified to do that. Oh man, I've been on a bunch of interviews. Nobody's calling me back. It can be a very, very, very challenging and depressing and anxiety laden voyage. The way that you look for work, you just need to flip it entirely upside down and back to the beginning of our conversation. You just need to flip it completely upside down. You need to take risks and you need to do things that are courageous and you need to be in a state of preparedness, bulletproof, right? And you need to sweat the details. If you don't have an answer to the question, what do? That is articulate, concise, and about 30 seconds. Well, then you have to create one. And when you go back and look in the mirror about what it is you want to do and who you want to be, that's part of that. That statement comes from that mental and emotional exercise. And I will cite one other resource that I recommend all of you get. I don't care what your circumstances are because of this topic. And it's called Find Your True Purpose. And it's a workbook that you can download. There's an opt-in, but there's no cost. And this exercise is, I think it's a 10-page workbook, 7 questions that lead to some other exercises. It's very actionable. It will help you find out if there's an intersection between what you love to do, what you're very good at, such that you can teach other people, and that you can make money, that people will pay money for. And most people, the vast majority of people that go through this exercise find an intersection, at least one, most find 2 or 3. And then now you have a place, an ideation can take place, right? Now you can be contemplative, you can dig deep down that hole. The thing that I would tell you about that exercise is it's very, very simple, but it's very, very hard because you are forced, if you do it well and honestly, you are forced to ask questions of yourself that you've never asked before. And you're also forced to perhaps listen to some answers that you're not going to like. That's true of all of us. I've done it myself. But everybody kept coming to me saying, I got to find a job, or I need to do something else, or I hate my boss, or I hate my commute, or I'm not making enough money, or I got laid off. I mean, the litany of reasons people have for wanting to do something else. I said, well, what do you want to do? And most people look at me and say, well, what do you mean? I'm like, all right, here's the workbook. So it's an exercise I would say most people never do. And I go back to my original statement is, I remember getting told by my guidance counselor in high school when I was 17 that I should study business in college. And I said, why? And she said, well, because that's the way for you to find a good job. Now, she means well, and some would argue she was correct. I would argue she was not. But she was working with limited information. She didn't really know who I was. We had a couple conversations. I don't even remember her name, but that starts the process, right? I'll back it up. Dad wanted me to be a doctor. Mom was an attorney. She wanted me to come into her practice. A lot of people are doing stuff for work based on a suggestion that somebody else made. Coaches do it, right? Teachers do it. Guidance counselors do it. Friends do it. Uncles do it. Dads and moms do it. Okay, so we find ourselves in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s. Doesn't matter. Everyone's in career transition. Everyone is seeking out something better most of the time, or thinking about it. That's just the reality. But you find yourself and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I went to work for Metropolitan Life Insurance Company out of college with a marketing degree from the University of Notre Dame. So I had some creds, right? But that job sucked. Right? I hated that job. And it took me 2.5 years, almost 3 years to figure it out because I had this little voice in my head saying, you got a salary, you got an apartment, you got some suits, you got some ties, you got a credit card, you're in Chicago, it's fun, it'll get better. And that, I don't think I was ever meant to work for someone else, but that's a whole nother story. But I asked myself at a very young age what I wanted to do. And there were a lot of personal drivers. And it didn't happen for me until I was in my mid-20s. And I think most young people, if you're roaming around not knowing what you do, get in line again because you're not alone at all. most people that are my age in their 50s still aren't doing what they should be doing or want to be doing or have something to complain about. And they're just, at some point you get stuck. Like now I can't, there's nothing else I can do. I'm like plugged into this lane and I can't get out of it because I really don't want to put the energy and the work in, you know? So this exercise of finding your true purpose is really, 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 really valuable. And I tell people, and I wrote this in the kind of intro to the book, that get a quiet space, get about 2 hours. You might just need one, but block off 2. Turn your phone off, turn everything off. If you're into meditation and breathing, knock yourself out for 5 or 10 minutes. But this is going to require focus. And I don't recommend anybody begins the exercise, stops halfway through, leaves, and comes back, because you gain momentum during the exercise that is difficult to replicate if you return having unplugged from that focused breathing, thinking, being honest exercise. I've had many people tell me that was awesome, and most people say that was exhausting. So those are both good signs, right? So that's what you do to prepare for everything else that we've just talked about. And if you don't do that first, you run the risk of focusing your energies in the wrong direction, wasting a lot of time and energy, or ending up in a job that you don't care for at all. You know, this is a time to try new things. This is a time to do scary things, especially if you don't have a job. What have you got to lose? If you accepted a position that was so far out of in left field that you don't even believe you interviewed for the job, that might end up being the coolest thing you ever did. So don't look at it, what we're going through now, as terribly challenging, even if it is. Look at it opportunistically, because now you have the freedom and the permission to go do things that you might not have otherwise done. That's really good. That's really cool. You need to understand that's what's going on and appreciate it for what it is and take advantage of it.